So the first thing I want to do is briefly introduce myself, and then I'm going to introduce my colleague Penny. So I'm Julie Wackety. I will be a familiar face and probably very familiar email to many of you on today's training. So I've been with ICCR for a good bit. I am part of our two-person communication staff. So with Susanna McDermott, manage ICCR's website, social media, and then I also do the members bulletin, which you see probably every week, and do a lot in ShareEx as well. And my colleague Penelope here on the side is a newer member of our staff, and I just wanted to introduce her briefly because she is going to be helping out with some trainings of her own in ShareEx in the months ahead. So I just wanted to give you all an opportunity to sort of see her face and say hello, so that when her trainings start, you know exactly who you're going to be meeting with. So Penny, you want to just say sort of a quick hello?
Hi, nice to meet you all. Yeah.
Okay, so I am going to share my screen. Okay, so basically what I am going to do today is I am going to focus a lot on the engagements, the concept, and then I'm going to move on to resolutions. I will be taking some questions throughout, but then I'll leave question time at the end for anything that I didn't hit during the main demo. So just to start us off, I am going to talk sort of in general, as I said, about engagements. There's a lot I'm not going to cover today, so if you see me bypassing certain sections of the site, that's sort of deliberate. I'm trying to focus on the things that I think you probably need to know first as ShareEx users and as new ICCR members. So I'm going to come up to the very top to this main navigation bar over here, and I'm going to select engagements. And so I wanted to acknowledge that we have a couple of different types of folks on today's training. We have both new members, and we have folks who've been members of ICCR for some time, right? So we've got newbies and old hats. And then we also have both associate and faith-based members and affiliate members. And the reason why I mentioned the affiliate members is much of what I'm going to be showing you today is I'm going to be showing the full sort of ShareEx experience, right? All the data-rich portions, all the different things that you can do. But the affiliates are a slightly different group of users. They have what I like to refer to as ShareEx Lite, so a more sort of simplified view of ShareEx. If you're an affiliate member, you have you don't have the same access as the others to the real data-rich portions of the database. The thinking being that affiliate members are often sort of in what we call learning mode. They're learning about shareholder advocacy. Perhaps they have not yet filed their first resolution. So they're sort of in the mode of like getting their feet wet and learning about how we work. So I will, throughout the presentation, say things like, oh, and affiliates don't see this particular part, or affiliates do see this particular part. But just to give you a bit of framework on what I'll be sort of showing. So here we have the engagement section. So what in the world do I mean when I say engagements? So from the ICCR point of view, an engagement is basically one company and one topic. So if you look down here on this page, you can see 3M, executive compensation. So basically, it's a focused team of investors working together at a company on an issue with a specific set of goals in mind, right? So they are sort of a cohesive team. So ICCR's engagements, we basically have two types in ShareEx. So I'm coming back up to the little blue header here, and you see a couple of different tabs. One says open, and the open is what you see when you land on this page, and then archived. So engagements are open or they are archived, and if an engagement is open and appears here on this master list, and we have over 1,000 open engagements. So that basically means that investors are doing or have done something with this company, taken some sort of action, whether it's filed a resolution, sent an investor letter, engaged in dialogue within the past 4 years. Then we also have quite a few other engagements under archived, and an engagement is archived when it is successfully concluded. Say investors have done everything that they've sought for with this company, or which sometimes happens is that the engagement kind of stalls out. Maybe the company is just really resistant to change, not open to dialogue, and investors decide to sort of archive the engagement just because they're not able to make the kind of progress that they were hoping, right? So that explains the difference between what you'll see between open and archived. And so to give a quick explainer, so affiliates do see all of this. And what you see in blue is the name of the company that takes you to the company record. Black, big font is the name of the engagement. And then below it is one of the most current actions at that company. So this one is a resolution, also resolution. And then you can see here, this was a letter sent in 2019, right? So I wanted to go into a little more detail about engagements. So why don't I like to pick on Amazon because who doesn't like to pick on Amazon? So I want to take us there. So if you're interested in seeing more about a particular engagement, I think that most of you are going to be looking for engagements based on a particular company name. So we have the company filter, so you can just fill that out and apply. And so then you see all of our active engagements with Amazon, 22. So Amazon is quite a popular, so to speak, company for engagement because it has a lot of challenges that we are currently working on. So I want to give a little more information. So this is one engagement. This is the Amazon data privacy and surveillance engagement. So why did ICCR decide to create these engagements, right? Why did we choose this as our sort of particular method for tracking what investors are doing with companies? So what an engagement does, so everything in blue here is sort of the essential company details, right? An engagement is, think of it as an overarching umbrella for a series of time-bound actions, right? You see below here in actions, we did resolutions in 2021, 2020. Let me go back up, and 2019, right? So an engagement is sort of a grouping mechanism that allows us to track everything that that team of shareholders, and if you come over here on the right, you can see, picking on Gina briefly, so you can see the coordinator, i.e. the investor who's leading this particular engagement at this company on this topic, and all of the other investors, right, over here on the right, who have joined her in this engagement. So
Relax, Richie.
What I also want to point out is that to go back to the engagement main page, just going back here. Here. So engagements are either open or archived, but what you'll notice is that there is not a 2021 engagement or a 2022 engagement or a 2019 engagement. The engagements themselves don't have a time. They're basically, they're either, again, open or archived, but they're a collector of this time-bound activities. But that doing it this way gives us a couple of benefits. I want to show you all the Pepsi pesticides engagement, right? You can see it goes back to 2015, right? So you can see how we are approaching things over time. And then I want to show you also the AbbVie pharmaceutical prices and access engagement. So you can see this one goes back to 2017. So this gets us a couple of different benefits. So one of the reasons why the engagement concept is helpful is that, so particularly with our pharmaceutical work, as we see here with AbbVie pharma prices, a lot of the health work takes a couple of different approaches. It will take sort of straight on approaches to pharmaceutical pricing and access. Then it will also often use a governance-based approach. The same team of investors, mind you, really at the end of the day, trying to achieve the same long-term goal to achieve the same end. So when you create an engagement, I'll show you the interesting stuff. So we can go look at 2017, right? So that was when we first started this engagement. You can see here the engagement starts tackling drug pricing right away, and then also begins to address CEO and chair separation as a different way of getting at the same problem of pharmaceutical pricing and access, right? So this one engagement brings together the governance aspects and the health aspects over time. And here's where it gets fun. I'm going to click on the engagement asks and benchmarks. So this part, right, all the sort of meaty information on the engagement page is what is available to full faith-based and associate members, but not to affiliate members. But let me show you the good stuff. So I'm clicking on the engagement asks and benchmarks. So when you add all of your resolutions and letters to engagement, this is the kind of detailed, granular, long-term look at how investors have been engaging this company on this topic over time and how they've been doing. So we've done a bit of color coding on the right, green for points of progress, red for not responsive to shareholder asks. And so you can see most recently this year, 2021, going back to 2018. So you can see, for instance, in 2018, that our investors began asking the company to integrate drug pricing risks into senior executive compensation. And then over here on the right, you can see how the company responded, or in this case, didn't respond. So not only did the company was it not responsive to our asks that year, it also challenged the resolution at the SEC. But the good news is that investors won, and it went to a vote and got a decent vote of nearly 22%. So what you can see over time then is the evolution of this engagement. So the next year they came back with a similar resolution, and again the company was resistant. But then they started making a little bit of progress. So the company began to commit to making changes, and again not responsive. So the team of shareholders came back again and reached an agreement and had a successful dialogue, right? So through this mechanism of the engagement, we're able to collate and show you all those different points of progress. And so before I move on, I do want to talk a little bit about these two key fields here in the center of the screen. So most of our engagements have what we call, they have two parts of goals. So they have the long-term goal, like where ultimately at the end of the day, does this team of investors want this company to go? And then a short-term goal that basically sort of like where they hope and think they can get the company to move over the next 12 months, right? So so the broad goal is ensuring access, affordable access to medicines globally. And then the short-term goal might be publishing a report assessing feasibility of a specific step or two. So that is what that is. There's a question in the chat, so let me come take a peek. Do members fill out the color-coded comments? Yes, that is a question from Gina. So so going back down to the engagement asks and benchmark, I'm not going to go into the details of how to fill this portion out, but if you are the coordinator of an engagement, staff will partner with you, but you can fill this out. And I believe that Penny's actually going to be doing sort of like a 201 session on how to update the annual asks as well, right? So that is sort of like the benefit of the engagement concept and the short and long-term goal. And I'm going to point out one feature and then I'll pause for general questions. So let's say as you navigated through ShareEx, you're like, hey, that looks really interesting. It seems like they're doing really good work. How do I join that cool team of people? How do I become a part of that engagement? So every engagement up in the top sort of blue header has this has three buttons here: edit, add, and subscribe. So I'm going to click subscribe. And now it says, because I've subscribed, unsubscribe. So I have now joined this engagement. So interesting things happen when you click that subscribe button. And while I, of course, would love it if members visited ShareEx every single day, I also know that that's just not really realistic or feasible as much as I would enjoy it if they did. So we built in a lot of interactivity. So the more you tell ShareEx about what you were interested in doing, the more it can feed you information accordingly. And there are subscribe buttons throughout, and what those will do in this particular case, it will, when you subscribe to an engagement, the coordinator, if there's a coordinator in place, is going to get an automatic email notification that you have joined his or her engagement, so they know to reach out and bring you up to speed with the latest set of details and plans for the next engagement, or potentially, now that we're in the fall, a resolution. And also, when you join, i.e. subscribe to an engagement, whenever there is a new resolution added, you are also going to get an automatic notification. The notifications, we try to be protective of your inbox. The notifications that have happened once a week, we bundle them all together because we don't want to sort of overwhelm you or annoy you with notices. But the thinking being that is that if you've subscribed to participate in a particular engagement, you are pretty likely going to be interested if there is a new resolution that is being considered for the fall, right? So that's how that works. Similarly, all of our issues like gun safety, pharmaceutical prices and access themselves have subscribe buttons. The thinking being that if you're interested in gun safety, we will send you an automated alert like once a week that lets you know when there's a new gun safety engagement, a new gun safety resolution, because you may very well want to join that. So I see a question in the chat, so let me take a look at that. Yes. Oh, okay. So this is a note for Penny. So there's going to be a ShareEx 201 sometime in mid to late September. Okay. So before I go on further, any sort of general questions, you can either send it by chat or you can speak it out about the engagement structure and like why you would join and how you would join.
Joy, I guess this is really interesting. I thought I knew a lot of it already, but I don't. And I like the thought that you had about if you belong to a group that you'll be getting these notices, because you know, I don't even want to sound like I'm making any criticisms, because I do remember the old database, and this is so much better. There's so much more information and options here that I really appreciate it. But I think I found myself not signing up for as many actions because of the way, you know, like you said, it's not as time specific as an engagement as say, well, resolutions obviously are an annual thing. But in the past, you know, this time of year, people would start, they were encouraged to put their actions for the year on the database. And then you would review all, you know, 20, if it's 2017 coming up, all the 2017 actions, and then you would, you know, you would join whatever actions you wanted to join. And in a lot of cases, you were rejoining something that you had already been a part of the previous year. And it seems like the engagements here, because it's not as year specific, you know, it doesn't focus as much or as, you know, emphasize the yearly engagements as much. I don't, you know, I don't feel it's as easy to review things and say, oh yeah, that's right, I want to join this, or what else is going on. You know, whereas with the old database, that was the only advantage I saw to the database compared to this is you could just jump into that. You know, you look at the resolutions page, I know we haven't gotten to it yet, and there's a current year button, but there's no current year button on the engagements to see, well, who, you know, who has started up something with whatever company, or, you know, just go, I like to just go through everything and go, all right, there's this company, who's doing what with this company, should I join something like that, especially when I'm thinking of new engagement. So that, I apologize for the long-winded comment and question, but that's
that's great, Tom, because now you provided me with an excellent opportunity to go like a little bit deeper, right?
Good.
So if I were Tom, right, and I have subscribed to this engagement, one of the problems that we addressed in the old database versus the new one is that every year everybody would always have to go in and re-sign up again to indicate that they were interested in a particular engagement with the company. 2022 rolls around, the leads would create their actions, everybody would sign up all over again. So what the engagement does, if you subscribe to this engagement, Tom, and everyone else on the training, you're always going to be here. So the engagement list is basically, you can think of it as the sort of the current live working group with this company on this topic. So you sign up once, and until you remove yourself, you are considered to be part of that engagement, right? And so if this company and this topic is what is of interest to you, Tom, you sign up once and you're good. But then there might be specific, but I think the challenge that you're wrestling is like, I think that you're thinking of like all the other actions that you can participate with, like, where are the resolutions? So let me sort of pivot and show you sort of how that functions. I'm going to go back up to the top and I'm going to click resolutions. Well, actually, before that, let me click on engagements really quickly. So, as I mentioned, engagements open, archived, and then show all just combines the two. My engagements, which you may find helpful, right? My engagements are either the engagements that you have created, Tom, or the ones that you've subscribed to. Because if you recall, in the open tab, there are over 1,000 active engagements. So the My engagements is just the stuff that you've told ShareEx is important to you, things that you are leading or things that you are following. But if you are, and then let me come back to the homepage really quickly. Spot. So this homepage center square will also feed you your engagements as well, the ones you've told it that are of interest to you. And coming back up here. So we might consider adding a sort of new engagements tab to showcase just the ones that have recently been added. But basically, this is like the full list of everything that is happening that you may want to participate in. If there is, a particular company that you are curious to see what's happening, again, you can do, pardon me, as I type. You can search my name, right? And you can see everything that's ongoing, and you can join. If there is a particular issue that is of interest to you, you can select an issue area, right? And then you can join one of these. And just a quick explanation, we have these two fields, issue area, and topic. An issue area is basically sort of like our broadest buckets: climate change, human rights, health, and then topic below it are the finer grained choices like methane emissions, which is a subtopic underneath the climate change issue area, or it could be human rights due diligence, which is a subtopic underneath of human rights. So what happens is, so these engagements are in the system year round, and a few, we add a few throughout the year, and we archive a few throughout the year. But if you subscribe to a particular, as I mentioned, the issues, if you subscribe to an issue, you'll get a notification when there's something new matching your interests that is added, a new engagement that is added. Does that help at all, Tom? Because I'm gonna pivot to resolutions, but
Yeah, actually, it does very much. I did have one quick question after that, though. So if you are leading an engagement, you've had dialogues with a company, and you no longer, even if you're a supporter, you signed up on someone else's, and you no longer want to be part of that, you just go and click unsubscribe. But if you lead an engagement with something and you feel like it's gone as far as it can go, what do you do? Do you hit unsubscribe as the leader, or like to archive it or whatever?
Yeah, to archive it, just email like the Penny, and then you can copy me, and then we'll archive it for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that was the question I had. Thank you.
Okay. And then I want to turn us now to resolutions. So resolutions are they're a specific time-bound action that are always a part of an engagement. So I'm taking us over to resolutions. And then there's another question in the chat, so let me take a peek. Okay, so question from Gina: should we be receiving email notifications as engagement coordinators when new co-filers sign up. I do not know if I'm receiving notifications. So Gina, yes, you should be receiving notifications. And I know that after this call, why don't we touch base? Because then I could check to make sure I can see which engagements you are serving as a coordinator and see, I can do a test. I can sign up to subscribe to one of those to make sure that those notifications are reaching you, right?
Thanks,
And-
Julie. It was specifically for the recent Tyson racial equity audit filing. I see that a lot of people have signed up in ShareEx, but I didn't get an alert for it, or I may not be looking in the right place for the alerts. But if we could walk through that separately offline, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely, we'll do that. Okay, so this is the resolution section. So again, just to point out that this is something that the affiliates don't see. And I will occasionally say today things like, oh, the affiliates don't see that. But if you are ever interested in becoming more active as a share owner, taking part in more engagements, filing your first resolutions, eventually becoming an associate is something that you might consider, because when you're an associate, you get to see, you know, all of these tools. So this is, consider today sort of insights into ways that you could eventually, new tools, new data, new ways of sort of evaluating company progress, and then our own progress as shareholders working with that particular company. So think of this as sort of sneak preview of what you can eventually do. So when you click on the resolutions main tab, it takes you to, it's styled a bit similar to the engagements page. So it takes you to a series of tabs. The first one is the current year. So for those of you, if any of you have not yet filed your first resolution or are new to shareholder engagement, our concept of year might seem a bit unusual or strange to you. So basically, in broad strokes, the filing season, the season in which shareholders send resolutions to companies to appear on proxy ballots, typically that starts in August of every year. So officially, we have kicked off, even though we're still in 2021, we've kicked off the 2022 filing season. So the first 6 resolutions of the year have been filed, and that the pace of filings is just going to keep picking up from here. It's going to get quite busy in October, very busy in November, extremely busy in December, and will continue into January, and then start tapering off into as we reach February. So every year, ShareEx, the calendar sort of switches over. So this is just the current year, i.e. 2022 proxy targeted resolutions. And then we have a couple of other tabs. So just in general, every year the ICSR Coalition files together, I would say about 300 resolutions. So that is a lot of data to wrangle. So we have a couple of tools to help sort of keep that, to segment, to make your working life a little easier. We have My Resolutions. So just like the My Engagements tab, right? These are just the resolutions that you have either, you've lead filed and entered, or you have co-filed, right? So it all appears here. And then co-filing opportunities, resolutions where other investors welcome your participation on their resolution, and the newly created. So this is just the most recently created resolutions sorted at the top. And then show all, which is kind of fun. I'll do a quick peek. So show all resolutions shows every single resolution that members of our coalition have filed back to 1971. So we have over 8,000. And if you are curious to see what some of the very first resolutions we filed are, you can select 1971. And big shout out to Penelope for helping to enter so much of our historical data. She's made a lot of this possible. So you can see that 1971, we were focused on environmental impacts of mining, and of course, withdrawal from South Africa. You can see how those resolutions performed. So show all, I'm not going to spend really any more time on that, but it is really fascinating from a historical perspective to see when and how we approached issues with companies for the first time. As with the engagement screen, we have a couple of filters. This first filter, it searches the name of the resolution. So if you searched hourly employees, you would get this resolution, hourly employees on the board of directors. It's got a company field, and as with engagements, issue area and topic. And then you can also search by filer. So if I was interested in, I could search by filer, and then you can also search by status. So if, as you're looking, like maybe at the historical resolutions, you could search by just all those resolutions that have had a successful withdrawal, or if you were interested in seeing which ones were unfortunately sort of omitted at the SEC, you can also check out that too. But let us take a closer look at one of these. Let us look at the Tyson racial equity audit. So here we have, again, the sort of header details, and here we see Gina as the lead and as the engagement coordinator, and all the filers who have co-filed with her. So what we generally encourage people to do is to add a resolution to ShareEx as soon as you know that you might be filing, because that allows other investors then to sign up to subscribe to your resolution, right, in advance, so you can start building that list of co-filers to join you in your action, right? And if you wait until after it's already been filed, we lose that good window of opportunity to get you additional co-filers, both here directly in ShareEx and then also in the members bulletin, where I include on a weekly basis calls for co-filers, right? So create one early, and then if, as you've added your resolution, you don't yet have the text of your resolution, that's actually fine. What you can do here in the resolve statement field and in the body, the full text, is say text to come, right? So you can so people can start signing up and showing you that they're interested in adding themselves basically to your contact list, so that you will be ready and they will be ready once the text is finalized. And a couple of other sort of cool things that happen when you, like Tom or someone else, clicks the subscribe button. So one of the, I like to think of them as just-in-time alerts that we've built in. When you subscribe to a resolution, you are then on a weekly basis going to get an automatic notification, again, that bundled weekly notification that lets you know when your filing deadline is approaching, right? It starts at week 6, so 6 weeks out from the filing deadline, and then week 5, week 4, week 3, letting you know to get your final text to your resolution, to get your verification of shares held, and to communicate with your lead filer, so that you have plenty of time to do all that sort of necessary background work before the deadline, so that you get your materials in before the close of business on the filing deadline that the company has specified, right? So that's one of the benefits of subscribing. So also to sort of go further into the life cycle of your resolution, after it's been filed, clicking the edit button to sort of show you, then a variety of other things happen to the resolution. So you may end up getting an SEC challenge, or you may eventually withdraw for agreement. So the way to report all those is in the statuses and outcomes section that we have here. And I'm not going to submit this, but once you're done, you can click submit. And then also, I just want to point out that particularly these days, now that the SEC rules regarding the filing shareholder resolutions, are changed, we find it important to track the specific grounds of SEC challenges and SEC omissions, right? So if a resolution that you were leading gets challenged, do take a moment and let us know what ground or grounds it was challenged on. You can pull multiple, 3, 4, whether was it ordinary business, was it moot, and so forth. So just wanted to sort of indicate that. So any questions about sort of resolutions in general at this point that I could answer? Okay, so I will continue. So the process goes like this: the lead filer files first, and then alerts his or her co-filer saying that they can now co-file and support. So you'll want to let Gina know that you've co-filed if you've done so. You can also mark yourself filed here. So let me show you how that button works. So I'm going to click mark as filed. And because I'm logged in as myself, it's going to say you are filing on behalf of ICCR. And then click your organization and mark as filed. Some folks on the call also do shareholder engagement on behalf of multiple organizations, right? Sometimes that's true of CRIs, and sometimes larger investment managers will offer shareholder engagement on behalf of other clients. So their picker here might be quite a bit longer with, say, between like 4 and 12 different organizations, but I'm going to close this out. So that is sort of how that works. So I do want to sort of take a moment and return back to the engagement screen to talk about a slightly different concept. And actually, let's take a look at, I think I'm on Pepsi here. So just to run through sort of like a different scenario with you. Let's say just this week, let's say that you are all on this team of investors engaged in Pepsi on pesticides. And this week you had a Zoom conversation with the company, a dialogue talking about Pepsi's pesticide metrics, trying to move the company along the path of pesticide use reduction. So what do you do next? How do you let other shareholders know that you had this conversation with Pepsi? Do you create a brand new engagement? Like, would you go here and start a new engagement? And actually, the answer is no. And here we're back on Pepsi. If you have a meeting with the company, either it's a Zoom meeting or you have a phone call, what you want to do is come back here to the Pepsi engagement record, right? The one that you are a partner with. And then you want to use this little plus button here in the middle. So when you click that, this brings up a couple of choices, right? It says resolution. And when you file a resolution and you add a resolution to ShareEx, you add it as part of the engagement. So you would come to the engagement page and click that button like I just showed you, and then you would choose resolution. But for the moment, let's take a look at the dialog. So I'm going to select the dialog and create. And so this takes us to the start new dialog screen. So it's got, you can name it something sort of succinct. We could say, Pepsi, meeting with Pepsi on pesticide metrics. And then choose your organization if you represent more than one, select your date and time. And my one caution with the call information, if you are posting an upcoming dialogue that is going to take place, just list yourself as the point of contact, but don't put the actual call-in information. Just because you don't want company dialogues can be sort of like a sensitive moment. You don't necessarily want folks who have not yet participated in one or two sort of prep dialogues with the rest of the other investors on this engagement team to join the corporate dialogue, the official engagement with the company reps for the very first time as their very first activity, right? And so that's why I would just say, reach out to Gina for more details, reach out to Tom for the contact numbers. And then once the meeting with the company representatives has taken place, we ask that you tell us 3 things to the degree you can. What were the objectives of your dialogue or meeting with the company reps? In other words, what were you hoping to walk out of the meeting with? Like what points of clarity were you hoping to get? An additional report, clarity about certain metrics, and then key takeaways. So how did the dialogue go? Did you feel that it was successful? Was the company resistant to your asks? Was the company fairly accommodating? And the next steps. Are you going to follow up with the company in 6 months to see that the commitment that they make, like for instance in this meeting, like they're committing to establishing metrics and they're committing to doing it by December. So in January, you might say, we will have a follow-up call with the company to double check that action has begun on implementing these new metrics. And then if you have minutes or other materials related to that dialogue, you can upload them here, right? So So does that, the how and when to add a dialogue, does that make sense to folks? Okay, so no questions, so I will assume that was especially clear, but I will save time at the end so we could do a more general Q&A. We can always loop back if you have questions on this one. So again, I want to go back up to engagements again. So sort of in a roundabout fashion, getting to Tom's question about like, engagements and how do I find new engagements and so forth. If, so again, to distinguish an engagement, which is the sort of overall umbrella, if you will, for things like resolutions and letters and dialogues held with a company on a topic, to distinguish between engagement and a specific dialogue, a specific meeting or call with the company. So when would you create a new engagement? Like why and how and when would you add one? So let's say you are starting a brand new engagement with a company. Let's say you are concerned with Hormel's performance on antibiotics, and you are starting a brand new engagement. So the first thing to do is to actually double check to make sure that no other team of investors, in the broad coalition, is actually already working on this issue with that company. So put the company name in and then apply filter. So again, I want to do something with Hormel on antibiotics. And then what do I see? I see that somebody is actually working with Hormel on antibiotics. So I'm going to click through. And it's led by Andrea Ranger of Green Century. So if this is the case, right? So if I was thinking I was going to add this brand new thing and it's already in there, what I would do is subscribe to that engagement. It makes more sense to join Andrea's engagement. Or if you think that you might be pursuing something similar but with a different twist, maybe work in a very related but different direction, you might actually just reach out to Andrea and talk to her a bit about what her aims are. And if you are indeed working in a different direction, then I do think that, yes, it does make sense to add a new engagement. Well, we would want to have a slightly different name. But if, let's say, what we wanted to engage Hormel on was racial justice. If I look here at the list of, again, open engagements for Hormel, I see that there's nothing here listed about racial justice. So this is actually an excellent case then for starting a new engagement. So to do so, we come up here to the top, start engagement, and then go through. This is just a simple picker. So you pick Hormel, and then this is a checker just to sort of double check what is already being done at the company so you don't accidentally duplicate. The issue area, I would pick inclusiveness, primary topic, racial justice. And then you can choose your allies below. It's a long list. We have the good fortune of working with a lot of excellent organizations. And then a long-term goal. So I would say assess company diversity efforts. So in other words, your long-term goal, remember when we took a look at the engagements earlier in the middle of the engagement page in that big blue header, the first thing you saw was long-term goal. This is where that comes from, right? So you are basically declaring to other investors what you are seeking to achieve with this company. Because but before we launched ShareEx, a lot of this, like what is your long-term goal? A lot of this lived in like my Excel spreadsheets, your Excel spreadsheets, someone else's like filing cabinet. A lot of that was sort of like implied and not necessarily sort of directly stated. But here in ShareEx, we're trying to be much more explicit about what we are hoping to achieve with a particular company, because that way we can measure our progress. After a year and after 5 years, we can say, how have we been doing? And how has the company been doing? Have we been successful in moving the company to where we want them to go? And the first step on that evaluation road, right, is stating and holding yourself accountable to the long-term goal. So when you're done, you click submit. So I'm not actually going to click submit because I would have to take that out of the system afterwards. And then I want to show you just a couple other sort of quick tips. So after I show you this, I will take your questions. So start thinking about your questions. So a nice way, in addition to the My Resolutions, My Engagements tabs, there is another cool place that I want you all to explore. So go to My Account and My Profile. Okay, so this profile tells you where I work, my email address, my phone number, how to reach me. However, further down the page, it shows you my engagements and my resolutions. So these are all the engagements that I have subscribed to or am coordinating. But because I'm a staff person, I'm not actually coordinating an engagement. So these are all just the ones that I am subscribed to and sort of following, right? So it's got, and also if Tom had a question earlier, like if you were no longer interested in participating in an engagement, you could unsubscribe, you could do that here. But this is a handy tool, right? So you can search if you are incredibly busy and you have joined 50 engagements. That's a lot to look for. So you can parse through your engagements here by company, the keyword. Also, if you're representing different organizations, you can use the organization filter as well, issue area. And also, this is cool. So you can also say, just show me out of all the engagements that I'm either participating in or leading, just the ones I am coordinating, and then apply filter. And again, because I'm not a coordinator, my result is 0. So if you're coordinating, this will look different for you. And then also with resolutions, so this also shows you all the resolutions that you have either entered or subscribed or filed, right? So it shows me a subscribe to this one. And again, you can also slice and dice this, those that you are leading, you were the lead filer responsible for organizing all your co-filers, are just ones that you are just co-filing on, right? To sort of help with organizing your work. So that is the majority of what I wanted to show you today. So now I would like to open it back up for questions. So does anyone else have questions either sort of about ShareEx, either engagements or resolutions, or maybe sort of like how to get started or things of that nature that I can answer for you?
Julie, I have one question. If we represent multiple institutions, like we represent ourselves in ABHMS, but we want to add additional institutions there, is that something we would just go to you or Penny directly, or is there somewhere in our profile that we can add those?
Yeah, just email Penny and I, and we'll add that new organization for you.
Sure. Thanks.
Yes, so we'll take care of that. Other questions? Okay, well, while you're thinking of questions, I think I will show you, I'll do a quick hop over to issues, just to show you how this works. So these are, so when you go up to the very top navigation and click issues, you have engagement issues and topics. These are all of the issue areas and subtopics that members of the coalition are currently filing on. So there are a lot, right? And you can see how we've got the issue area on top, sub-issue below. And so remember when I said that when you subscribe to an issue, you will start getting automated alerts whenever there is a new resolution or engagement added on that topic. So I'm going to click climate lobbying. I've already subscribed. I guess I've done this one before. But when you come to this page, if you are interested and have not subscribed, your button will say subscribe. And then over here on the right are 3 of the most recent resources that we've added and shared related to climate lobbying. And then you also have this handy roundup of open engagements on that particular topic, right? Two other quick tips I wanted to show you. So let's say, I know that a number of the August filing deadlines have passed, but let's take a look at the Amazon one. So this one, the filing deadline is December. So if you are filing resolution and you're trying to find co-filers, what do? You can, first put your resolution in ShareEx, email me, and then I will put your resolution in the members bulletin. But there are other things that you can do as well. So you can look at the engagement. So I'm going to go over to Amazon's engagement. There aren't a lot of people involved with this one, so let me find a slightly different one. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go up to engagements. So this one might be interesting. The add the coronavirus. Yes, this at least has a couple more folks. So if you are looking for co-filers, go to your engagement, the engagement under which you've added your resolution. Come over here to additional participants, and then you can copy the email list, right? So that copies it to a clipboard. You can open up an Outlook message or whatever, and that gets everyone who has subscribed to the engagement, right? So that's one group of people. But then you can also go to resolutions and actually go to the prior year's resolutions, right? And I'm going to look at the 2021 ones, but there's also one down here. So let me take a look at, oh, Alphabet. So let's take a look at the Alphabet whistleblowers. This one was filed with Jonas Crown. Oh, that one didn't have many, but let me, it's the, come down just one more. Customer due diligence. This one I know had a lot of co-filers. Okay. So this one also filed by Investor Advocates for Social Justice and one of their members. So you can see the filers here. You can also copy the email list, right? So those are the two strategies for getting, for finding additional people to reach out to invite to join your future, your 2022 resolution. Go to the engagement, copy, get the email list below of all the participants in your engagement, and then go to the prior year's resolution if you filed that one before, and copy the email list there. And this will get you everyone who has filed that resolution, and also a slightly broader subset, anybody who is subscribed to the resolution. Because oftentimes members will subscribe to a resolution fully intending to file, right? But maybe their asset manager sold the shares at the last moment, so they couldn't complete the filing, or something else happened. So other people are subscribed. So those are sort of like an extra way to get additional investors for your engagement. So that is my tip on that. So I'm taking us back now to the homepage where you can see upcoming events. So I will do one last call for sort of questions. And also, if you don't have a question either for today's call, feel free to email me in the future, and I can sort of walk you through, give you some different advice. So any final questions before I close this out? Okay, well, doesn't seem like there are any additional questions. So I want to thank everyone for joining me here today. And I'll be doing, monthly versions of these. But if there are, so going forward, my sort of first or final Friday of the month will be sort of general sort of sessions orienting mostly newer users to ShareEx and how to use it. But we're also going to be doing some deep dives with Penelope in the months ahead as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and feel free to reach out to Penelope or myself if you have particular ShareEx questions. And so in the meantime, have a great afternoon, and since it's Friday, have a great weekend as well. So take care, everyone.
Thanks, Joy. Thanks for
Thank
everything.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a
Right.
great weekend.
Take care.